The year is 1888, a time when the world was on the cusp of modernity, yet still deeply rooted in the past. Gaslight flickers across the cobbled streets of Whitechapel, London, casting long, eerie shadows that dance and sway with the wind. A dense fog hangs in the air, thick with coal smoke and the stench of poverty, creating an almost suffocating atmosphere. This is the East End, a place where life is cheap and death comes often. The streets are filled with the cries of the hungry and the desperate. Yet even in this harsh reality, a new terror is about to emerge, one that will stain the very soul of Whitechapel. A terror that will be remembered for generations. Imagine the fear gripping the hearts of those who called these streets home. Every shadow, every whisper, a potential harbinger of doom. Footsteps echo in the fog, each one a potential threat. The sound reverberates through the narrow alleys, amplifying the sense of dread. The Ripper's presence is unseen, yet palpable, an invisible menace that lurks in the periphery of every passerby's vision. He is a ghost, a nightmare made flesh in the dark alleys and dimly lit pubs of Whitechapel. His legend grows with each passing night, feeding on the fear and uncertainty that grips the city. The Ripper's reign of terror begins in August, casting a dark shadow over the streets of Whitechapel. Mary Ann Nichols, a woman struggling to survive on the streets, is found brutally murdered. She was just trying to make ends meet, like so many others in this harsh environment. Her throat is slashed, her body mutilated. The sheer brutality of the crime sends shockwaves through the community. The savagery of the attack shocks even the most hardened police officers. They had seen violence before, but nothing like this.
I was just trying to get by, you know? Every day was a struggle, but we managed somehow. Life was hard, but I never imagined it would end like this. The fear was palpable, and it changed everything.
Annie Chapman becomes the next victim. Her life, already filled with hardship, is cut short in the most violent way. Then, just weeks later, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes meet the same gruesome fate. The community is gripped by fear and uncertainty. The brutality escalates with each murder, the mutilations becoming more frenzied, more disturbing. The Ripper's methods grow increasingly grotesque.
I remember the fear in my heart. Every shadow seemed menacing, every stranger a potential threat. The streets were never safe, but this was something else. It felt like the very air was thick with dread.
Finally, on November 9th, the Ripper claims his fifth and final victim, Mary Jane Kelly. Her death marks the peak of the Ripper's horrific spree. Her murder is the most horrific of all, her body almost unrecognizable. The brutality of her death leaves the community in a state of shock. The terror reaches fever pitch. The newspapers are filled with gruesome details and the public demands answers. Who is this monster preying on the vulnerable women of Whitechapel? The question haunts the city as fear and suspicion grow with each passing day. Panic grips London. The streets are filled with fear and uncertainty as the infamous Jack the Ripper continues his reign of terror. People are afraid to walk alone, and the once bustling city now feels like a ghost town after dark. The police, under immense pressure, struggle to find the killer. Every day brings new challenges and the weight of public expectation. The officers are exhausted, working around the clock, but the Ripper remains elusive. They face a maze of dark alleys, countless suspects, and a city that seems to conspire against them. The labyrinthine streets of London hide many secrets, and the police are racing against time to uncover them, and a climate of fear that makes witnesses hesitant to talk. People are scared for their lives, and even those who might have seen something are too terrified to come forward. The silence is deafening.
We were chasing shadows, really. Every lead felt like it was slipping through our fingers. The frustration was palpable. Every clue seemed to lead to a dead end. We would get our hopes up only to have them dashed time and time again. The sense of hopelessness was overwhelming. A torn piece of clothing, a bloody apron, each piece of evidence was scrutinized meticulously. A letter claiming to be from the killer himself. These letters taunted us, filled with gruesome details and threats. All investigated, none leading to an arrest. The disappointment was crushing, but we couldn't give up. The Ripper, it seems, is always one step ahead. He knows the streets better than anyone, and he uses that to his advantage.
Every clue seems to lead to a dead end. The detectives are relentless, but the Ripper's cunning is unmatched. The Ripper, it seems, is always one step ahead. The mystery deepens with each passing day, and the city remains in the grip of fear.
Section 4. The name whispered in fear, Jack the Ripper suspects. The lack of a suspect fuels endless speculation.
Was the Ripper a doctor, his anatomical knowledge evident in the precision of the murders? Or perhaps a butcher used to handling knives and blood?
Theories abound, each more outlandish than the last.
Names surface and disappear. Montague Druitt, a barrister, Michael Ostrog, a Russian conman, even Queen Victoria's own grandson, Prince Albert Victor.
Yet, despite the many suspects, no conclusive evidence emerges. The Ripper remains an enigma.
Section 5. A Legacy of Dread. Jack the Ripper in our collective memory. The Whitechapel murders may have ended in 1888, but the shadow of Jack the Ripper continues to loom large.
He's become a macabre legend, a symbol of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of any city.
His crime sparked changes in criminal investigation. The use of crime scene photography, profiling, and forensic analysis all owe a debt to the Ripper case.
The investigation was a turning point, albeit a grim one, in the fight against crime.
Section 6. The mystery remains, why we're still captivated. Over a century later, the question remains, who was Jack the Ripper?
Was he a cunning mastermind who vanished into thin air? Or a nondescript individual who simply blended back into the teeming streets of London?
The enduring mystery continues to fascinate. It speaks to our deepest fears, our morbid curiosity, and our desire to make sense of the senseless.
The Ripper case reminds us that even in the face of our best efforts, some mysteries may never be solved. Section 7. Unanswered Questions. A chilling echo through time. The story of Jack the Ripper is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can reside in the human heart. It is a tale of fear and uncertainty, of lives brutally cut short, and of a mystery that continues to haunt us. We are left to grapple with the unsettling truth. Some monsters may never be unmasked. They exist in the shadows, their true identities lost to time, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a legacy of fear.